I also said earlier that a big issue when it comes to innovation centers, well, actually, there's probably many, but just maybe one or two to focus on. So we've already spoke about, if the innovation center becomes the generator of ideas, then over time, those ideas are going to become probably less novel. Now, it doesn't mean that innovation center becomes less effective, because it could be focused on more continuous innovation, incremental innovation, in which case then greater collaboration between existing people is highly effective. However, if we're aiming for more radical, disruptive, transformative innovation, its value will erode over time. So the biggest predictor of success, of novelty, and again, the studies that show this, is quantity. Okay, more people generating more ideas consistently. And novelty nearly appears randomly within that population of ideas. So I think was it Adam Grant referenced a study in the book Originals. I think it was looking at the likes of Shakespeare, that sometimes we say, I think in a certain period of Shakespeare's life, was it in a 5-year period, he produced some of his best work, which is I assume true. But also when you look at the exact same 5-year period, he also produced, I think, 2 of the biggest failures maybe in his record. So it wasn't that he was more novel, more creative in that period. It was because he was more productive. He generated more pieces of work. So therefore, the chances of something being more creative and more successful increased. And that's that idea again, if we're looking to generate ideas, we need more diverse people generating more ideas. Now, in some cases, we manage that, but the issue is the selection. So sometimes when we talk about innovation, we talk about idea generation, then idea selection, then development, and then maybe implementation. So look at those earlier phases. Sometimes we're generating the ideas, but you then have to ask yourself, who's selecting them? Who's selecting the most likely success ideas that will be successful, that should be maybe supported going into development stage, etc. Now, again, if that's done by a center, and the people within the center, there's more likely to be groupthink, and there's no mystery around that. We know, again, over time, individuals start to think in a very similar way that have worked together for a period of time. But what's also interesting from Adam Grant's work actually is that they have been able to show that if you look at the individuals or the groups that have come up with the ideas, they are not a good predictor of the success of those ideas. Okay, when we're co-creator or we're creators of ideas, we over-predict their success. We create what are called false positives. Now, at the other end of the scale, managers are also not good predictors of the success of ideas. They tend to under-predict the success, and mainly because it goes against the status quo, because that risk element. So they generate lots of what's false negatives. So what the likes of Grant, Adam Grant points at is really the most I suppose the best source of predictions of the success are peers, people that are very similar but that are out there, maybe exposed to the world, that are not experts, because again, experts are notoriously poor predictors of success. If something doesn't align with their areas of expertise, they assume it's not a good idea. And if it contradicts their way of thinking within their area of expertise, they also don't think it's going to be a success. So again, it's the crowd, it's peers that are the best predictor of success. So again, this is an argument for our innovation centers, not necessarily the generators or the selectors of ideas, that we need to lean out into the networks. And look, I think, and looking at the clock, we could talk about this forever and a day, but I think there are just some ideas maybe around it. So I'd say be very careful of innovation theatre. I don't think we need to say much about that. Also, I think centralized innovation units, for me, the majority of them do not work unless it's about incremental, continuous innovation. If it's about more transformative innovation, then there needs to be more happening outside of the centre. The centre needs to be a facilitator of a network, and it's the network should be generating the ideas, and even better, the network should be the selectors of ideas, or at least there should be a big lean towards that expertise of those, even within the organization, at the edges of the organization. So hopefully that answers somewhat that question, and maybe we've time for one more, if I can see one here.